You know, the challenge as an art teacher is getting things actually reachable for students. So this is a painting I did, Van Gogh's Sunflowers, and I just want to show you kind of my approach day by day. I'm going to tape this down, that way my paper isn't moving. And what I have them do is we create kind of a study of what a still life is. And we go ahead and we learn how to do a guided drawing. I have them use white oil pastel. I use red on my camera. And I have them draw a couple smiles. And you know, then they can sort of make their vase any shape they want. And what's cool is we can change it, right? So I'm just teaching them kind of the concept of what a sketch is. And then I have them put in some circles, just about 5. They can do an oval, you know, one that's really big, okay, and of course one that's maybe underneath. And we're going to have some stems down here. And this one, I think, this stem's going to be coming kind of like that. And then last thing, we talk about space, of course, and we block in the table. Now, one of the cool things about Van Gogh and Impressionism and the style of painting is the direction of lines. So we're going to have them, on day 1, just paint these circles. Circles and ovals, kind of what they can see. And we're going to pay attention to the direction of the table and the curvature of something that looks 3D. And those are some fundamentals of this lesson. I want them to use small strokes in a certain direction and actually just play around and mix colors while they're painting. Now these color palettes are kind of, were just used, so I'm just in the middle of a class, and I actually don't give them white at the start, but I just happen to have it here because we're on day 2. But what I'm going to have them do is take a look at the sunflowers and basically paint this inner circle. And they're going to be painting their petals kind of all the way to the outer shape eventually. So they can use a little bit of yellow, a little bit of green, and just using the flat brush. Now, there was a teacher who actually posted a video on this process. I loved it. It's actually made for kids. But I just had a couple of kind of thoughts as I've been going through the process itself. A little bit of orange. We can even add a little circle of brown. And that is almost day 1. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but again, day 1 is looking at Impressionism and kind of getting these shapes all set, understanding kind of the construction of a sketch, overlapping, space. I mean, really, there's a ton packed into here. And that's kind of where I want to stop. Oh, I forgot this one. Now, you could actually either use the flat brush or this kind of brush. I'm going to try it with this brush right now. But what you're teaching them to do is to work, you know, from the center moving out. And again, what I like to teach, especially with 2nd grade, is how do we kind of balance out those petals, just going top to bottom. So I teach them kind of 4 quadrants, and then we go back in and we add in between. And I just keep having them fill in these almost like sun-like shapes. And they get excited because of this lovely petal-like structure. And you're gonna have kids that go totally like on their own, which is absolutely fine, okay? But then we've got 1 sunflower. But this is kind of how you handle the composition, and I've only taught this for like 9 classes and finally figured it out, and I thought, hey, let's go ahead and share this. Let me add a little bit of brown. The kids get super excited in this. I've been really impressed with my second graders and their ability to kind of handle this type of lesson. Now this one, of course, is drooping. We talk about like how the petals might droop and how we want our lines going in a certain direction, but still coming around the edge. And you'd be surprised. They're able to handle it. I got one over here. Maybe I'll add a little bit of pink and red in this one. I got let's see, this one's gonna go up. So again, we talk about what is in front, what is behind. I could even grab a little bit of white. Okay, so there's day 2. Oh, wait, I still gotta do this guy. And maybe we'll go back in and add just a little bit of light over here. We actually look at live sunflowers when we do this kind of in a field, so they can get a feel for how light sometimes hits things and translates. But I try and have them move only on one side of whatever object it is that we're painting, so that they get the concept that light hits from a side, even though in reality it might be more. Okay? And that's actually pretty good. I can actually go back in and maybe do some of these circles. I might also teach them how to grab a little bit on the end of their brush and do some tapping. This is really such a fun lesson to do, and for a couple days you're sort of using the same paint. And let's face it, this is tempera. Tempera is the most unforgiving paint, yet forgiving paint in the world. And I don't know about you, but as far as I know, whenever I teach a painting with it, I have to practice with it because I don't always know what it's gonna do. Okay, I also teach kids to wipe their brushes on rags, just so that we kind of keep the paint palette clean, but I don't really have them rinse their brush very much in this, because then what happens, of course, the brushes just get too wet. We're gonna start to add into day 3. And I actually don't have them do their greenery yet up here, although you certainly could. I mean, this would be actually a very good time to start to add in little bits of green stems, kind of things that are peeking through up to the top of their that is definitely something you could add in. The next step that I actually teach them is kind of the table. And of course, how the white light is hitting over here on the table. We take a little bit of paint, we start kind of brushing it left and right. And then we're gonna grab just a little bit of white on our brush. We're gonna move it on this side. And when I want them to come to the vase, I have them go right to the edge like that. My kids paint right on the table. They love to clean the tables, that's fine with me. Add a little sunlight over here, a bit of yellow. Okay, and the hard part is obviously really getting them to think about the wood grain of the table. We're not make things kind of one flat color. And you could certainly add another color tone in here if you wanted to really bump it up a bit. The last thing that I have them add before we do backgrounds or the vase is just kind of this smile line so they know what direction they're going. And then use a little bit of their white with that leftover brown and paint up here on the top. Okay, again, respecting sort of that smile line that happens. Now, I know I want this side to be a little bit darker, so we're gonna start to dab into there and teach them how to pull in that curve. Now, I don't have them paint this because this to me is a whole lesson about complementary colors. And so in my last class, what we talk about is how I really want to make these flowers pop and this vase pop, but I have these really orangey yellow tones, and we look at the color wheel and we figure out what sits on the other side, and that's when we incorporate either blues or purples or greens to really make that pop. And we have that discussion, is green really the right choice, because it's kind of threaded all the way throughout here. We're gonna go with blue on this one, and we want to use sort of a warm blue. I think that actually works better in this painting. I'm gonna start to lay a little bit of that bluish brown right into here, into the base of our vase. And they could choose a different color, I don't care. Okay, I've still had that conversation about complementary tones. Grab a little bit of white so that we get that little light highlight over there. I'm gonna pull in some of that sunlight, which I actually don't mind. Maybe get a little more brown over here, so we get that shadow of the vase. And then we're gonna start to work the top. And I talk about how in the top, our back wall is really moving kind of left to right and top to bottom. So we're gonna add in, oop, that's too light. There's some little, they're gonna wiggle their brushes in there. I'm going to tone this down with a little bit of brown. And so this is going to be my last lesson, is having them really wiggle in their brush into those negative spaces. But the nice thing is that their paintings are dry when they're at this point, so they can get it kind of to a good place. And the other best part is, since it's Impressionism, nothing is perfect. It's just how we impress upon it, how it appears to us. A little bit of brown in there. Uh-oh! You're always gonna get a kid just like me who does that. I'll leave that there. Feel a little Bob Rossi today. Grab a little white. Brighten that up with a little bit of blue. Now the other thing that they can do is, once you're all done and you're all dry, if you want them to add a little bit of detail, they can do that with colored pencils or oil pastels. So we're at a pretty good start. Okay, we're gonna go back in and add just a little bit of detail. Look at my time. Maybe over here on the side. watered down brown. Should have them just kind of, now, I know it's hard to believe, but I did have second graders doing this. I found it hard to believe. Okay, and over here we can add a little shadow with just a little bit of leftover water. Not too much. Tempera's a bear. Tempera is a bear. But that's kind of how I approach this painting and do it with kids. What I'll do is I'll actually let this dry, and I might go back in with a fine brush and kind of play around with a couple things, but I wanted to share kind of how I do this with kids. And kids are fun. And they're sometimes way more creative because they don't realize that they can do this and they're not afraid to try. And that's why I love teaching this age group.